The year is 2124. The air is thick with the stench of decay. Twisted metal skeletons reach for the sky, monuments to a forgotten age. This is Earth, but not as it once was. The Great War, a final, furious symphony of nuclear fire, had reshaped the planet. Lush forests were replaced with scorched plains. Sparkling oceans turned to poisoned seas. Humanity, or what remained, clung to existence in the ruins. Above ground, the wastelands stretch as far as the eye can see. The sun, a malevolent red eye in the sky, bakes the land with relentless fury. The lucky ones died in the firestorm. The rest were left to face something far worse, a slow, agonizing demise in a world gone mad. Yet life, tenacious and defiant, found a way. From the ashes of annihilation rose a new order, a society warped by the very catastrophe that birthed it. Towers of steel and glass pierced the toxic clouds, symbols of an oppressive power that now held sway. This was the domain of the corporations, entities that had devoured the remnants of governments and now ruled with an iron fist. This is the world of 2124, a world where every breath is a struggle, every sunrise a gamble. And in the shadows, unseen, unheard, a force far older than humanity itself watched and waited, their cold reptilian eyes gleaming with ancient hunger. They had been here all along, lurking in the fringes, their existence dismissed as myth and legend. But the reptilians were no mere fairy tale. They were ancient, cunning, their origins lost to the mists of time. Their power was subtle, insidious, a whisper in the ears of the powerful, a seed of discord planted in fertile minds. They were the puppet masters, and humanity, their unwitting marionettes. The seeds of the Great War had been sown long ago, carefully nurtured by the reptilians. They had stoked the flames of greed, envy, and hatred, manipulating nations, turning friend against friend, until the world was a tinderbox, ready to ignite. And when the bombs finally fell, the reptilians retreated to their subterranean lairs, emerging only when the dust settled to claim their prize. Now they held the reins of power, their influence woven into every aspect of this new world order. They whispered in the ears of the corporate elite, guiding their decisions, ensuring their continued dominance. They controlled the flow of information, manipulating the masses through a sophisticated web of propaganda and control. But even in this world of darkness and despair, a flicker of hope remained. For in the hearts of the downtrodden, the forgotten, the survivors who clung to life in the wastelands, a fire still burned. A fire that the reptilians, for all their power, could not extinguish. It was the fire of hope, of defiance, of the unyielding human spirit. And it was this fire that would one day rise to challenge the darkness and reclaim the stolen future.
They had been here all along, lurking in the fringes, their existence dismissed as myth and legend. But the reptilians were no mere fairy tale. They were ancient, cunning, their origins lost to the mists of time. Their power was subtle, insidious, a whisper in the ears of the powerful, a seed of discord, planted in fertile minds. They were the puppet masters, and humanity, their unwitting marionettes. The seeds of the Great War had been sown long ago, carefully nurtured by the reptilians. They had stoked the flames of greed, envy, and hatred, manipulating nations, turning friend against friend, until the world was a tinderbox, ready to ignite. And when the bombs finally fell, the reptilians retreated to their subterranean lairs, emerging only when the dust settled to claim their prize. Now they held the reins of power, their influence woven into every aspect of this new world order. They whispered in the ears of the corporate elite, guiding their decisions, ensuring their continued dominance. They controlled the flow of information, manipulating the masses through a sophisticated web of propaganda and control. But even in this world of darkness and despair, a flicker of hope remained. For in the hearts of the downtrodden, the forgotten, the survivors who clung to life in the wastelands, a fire still burned. A fire that the reptilians, for all their power, could not extinguish. It was the fire of hope, of defiance, of the unyielding human spirit, and it was this fire that would one day rise to challenge the darkness and reclaim the stolen future.
Jack Workman knew his place. He was birthed for it, engineered for it, his entire existence hardwired to serve. From the moment his eyes flickered open in the sterile birthing chamber, a number stamped on his wrist, he was the property of the corporation. His memories of childhood were a blur of regimented drills, bland nutrient paste, and the ever-present drone of the corporation's propaganda. Individuality was a flaw to be corrected. Emotions, a weakness to be suppressed. Jack, like all his brethren, was a cog in a vast machine, designed for efficiency, obedience, and unwavering loyalty. His designation: Jack Workman, Model 33. His purpose: to rebuild the shattered world, brick by bloody brick, for the profit of the corporation. He was one of millions, his life expectancy predetermined, his fate sealed the moment his artificial umbilical cord was severed. His days were a monotonous cycle of toil and recharge. He woke to the synthetic chirping of his assigned AI assistant, a disembodied voice that monitored his every move, reminding him of his daily quota and the consequences of failure.
Efficiency is key, Jack Workman. Your contribution is vital to the corporation's success.
The world outside the corporation's sterile walls was a testament to both human folly and its ingenuity. Gone were the sprawling cities of old, replaced by a network of interconnected sectors, vast industrial complexes dedicated to specific tasks. Towering structures of steel and concrete, their surfaces shimmering with an oily sheen, dominated the landscape. Automated drones buzzed through the artificial sky, their mechanical limbs tirelessly shifting cargo and assembling prefabricated structures. The air hummed with a constant, low-frequency thrum, the sound of 1,000 machines working in unison. Food was no longer grown, but manufactured. Jack's diet consisted of flavorless protein squares and synthetic vitamin supplements, dispensed from communal vending machines. There was no time for leisure, no space for individuality. Every waking moment was dedicated to fulfilling the corporation's directives. Yet, even in this world of cold efficiency, a spark of something else flickered within Jack. He couldn't explain it, this strange pull towards something more, something beyond the concrete and code that defined his existence. It was a feeling, an itch beneath his skin, a whisper in the back of his mind.
Efficiency is key, Jack Workman. Your contribution is vital to the corporation's success.
Yet even in this world of cold efficiency, a spark of something else flickered within Jack. He couldn't explain it, this strange pull towards something more, something beyond the concrete and code that defined his existence. It was a feeling, an itch beneath his skin, a whisper in the back of his mind. One day, a glimmer of warmth entered Jack's regimented existence. He was assigned a companion, a bioengineered canine named Plutarch.
Plutarch, with his sleek metallic fur and luminous green eyes, was designed to provide emotional support and enhance productivity.
"He is yours, Jack Workman," the technician explained, his voice devoid of inflection. "Treat him well. He is corporation property."
Unlike the other android workers, Plutarch possessed a certain warmth, a spark of something akin to sentience. He would sit patiently by my side as I consumed my tasteless rations, his tail thumping softly against the floor. At night, Plutarch would curl up at the foot of my cot, his presence a comforting weight against the sterile chill of the dormitory.
"He's a good dog," Jack would whisper, the words feeling strange and unfamiliar in his mouth. He had never had a friend before, not a real one. But Plutarch, with his unwavering loyalty and non-judgmental gaze, filled a void within Jack that he hadn't even known existed.
One evening, as the artificial sun dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows across the concrete wasteland, Plutarch nudged my hand with his cold, metallic nose. "What is it, boy?" I asked, surprised by the concern in my own voice. Plutarch whined softly and looked towards the door, his tail drooping slightly. "You want to go for a walk?"
It was against regulations to leave the dormitory after curfew, but something in Plutarch's eyes, a flicker of longing that mirrored his own, compelled Jack to disobey. The wasteland, a desolate expanse of rubble and ruin, stretched as far as the eye could see. But beneath this surface of decay, hidden deep within the earth, lay a world untouched by the ravages of war. This subterranean sanctuary, a testament to human ingenuity and arrogance, was the domain of the free people.
These descendants of the privileged few, politicians, scientists, captains of industry, had anticipated the apocalypse. They had retreated to their luxurious bunkers, their survival assured while the world above burned. Now, generations later, they emerged, pale and pampered, to survey the fruits of their ancestors' foresight.
Their world was one of opulent comfort and technological marvels. The air was clean, filtered, and purified. The temperature, a constant, comfortable 72 degrees. Food, grown in hydroponic gardens and prepared by automated chefs, was plentiful and varied. The free people wanted for nothing, their every need and desire catered to by an army of tireless machines.
They spoke of the surface world with a mixture of pity and disdain. They called the survivors top dwellers, a term tinged with both amusement and contempt. These unfortunates, they believed, were little more than savages, eking out a miserable existence in the ruins.
Jack, his curiosity piqued by Plutarch's insistent nudging, discovered a hidden access point on one of his scavenging runs. A rusted metal hatch, almost invisible beneath a tangle of weeds, led down into the darkness. He hesitated, his hand hovering over the cold metal.
Plutarch whined softly and nudged my hand with his nose. Trusting his companion's instincts, I took a deep breath and pushed the hatch open. A musty, earthy smell wafted up from the darkness, a stark contrast to the sterile air of the sector. Timlo.
The tunnel was narrow and damp, the air thick with the silence of forgotten ages. Jack's footsteps echoed on the metal rungs of a ladder that disappeared into the shadows below. Plutarch, his metallic fur gleaming faintly in the darkness, led the way, his senses alert for any sign of danger.
As we descended deeper, I felt a strange sensation, a tingling at the back of my neck. It was as if something, some unseen presence, was watching us, its gaze cold and calculating. I shook off the feeling, attributing it to the oppressive atmosphere of the tunnel.
The ladder ended abruptly at a metal platform. A single flickering light bulb illuminated a vast chamber beyond. Jack gasped, his eyes widening in disbelief. The chamber was enormous, its ceiling disappearing into the darkness above. Rows upon rows of gleaming machines hummed softly, their lights blinking in the gloom. This was no ordinary bunker. This was something else entirely.
Stepping onto a moving walkway, Jack felt a surge of disorientation as the platform whisked them through a series of tunnels, each more elaborate than the last. The air grew warmer, the hum of machinery replaced by the gentle lapping of water and the sweet scent of exotic flowers.
They emerged into a vast, cavernous space, a subterranean paradise bathed in the warm glow of artificial sunlight. Lush vegetation, watered by sparkling streams, carpeted the floor. Exotic birds, their plumage a riot of color, flitted through the branches of towering trees.
People, their skin pale and unblemished, strolled along winding paths, their laughter echoing through the air. They wore clothes of vibrant colors and luxurious fabrics, a stark contrast to the drab uniforms of the corporation workers. Jack stared in wonder, his senses overwhelmed by the sights and sounds of this hidden world.
He had never imagined such beauty, such abundance could exist. It was as if he had stumbled into a forgotten dream, a paradise hidden beneath the ruins of the old world. Plutarch, sensing Jack's amazement, barked happily and nudged his hand with his nose.
For a moment, Jack forgot about the corporation, the drudgery of his existence, the bleakness of the world above. Here, in this subterranean Eden, anything seemed possible.
But as he watched the free people, their faces etched with an almost alien serenity, a flicker of unease crept into Jack's heart. There was something unsettling about their perfect world, something artificial and staged. It was as if they were actors in an elaborate play, their every move scripted, their every emotion carefully controlled. The free people, in their subterranean utopia, dismissed them as top dwellers, a derogatory term for those who survived the apocalypse without the luxury of underground bunkers. They were the forgotten, the forsaken, the inheritors of a poisoned world. They clung to existence in the ruins of the old world, their lives a constant struggle against hunger, thirst, and the ever-present threat of radiation poisoning.
Some had formed tribes scavenging for scraps and battling rival gangs for control of the few remaining resources. Others wandered the wasteland alone, their minds shattered by the horrors they had witnessed. They were a motley crew, united only by their desperation and their hatred for the elite who had abandoned them to their fate.
Among them were the scrapers, their bodies scarred and twisted by years of exposure to radiation. They were the scavengers, the bone pickers, risking their lives to salvage anything of value from the ruins. Then there were the riders, clad in leather and riding salvaged motorcycles, their engines roaring across the desolate plains. They were the nomads, the traders, the bringers of news and whispered rumors.
And then there were the atoms, their bodies glowing with an eerie luminescence, the side effect of prolonged exposure to radioactive materials. They were the outcasts, the mutants, feared and shunned by even their fellow top dwellers. Jack had heard tales of these survivors. Whispered stories passed from worker to worker in the hushed tones of the dormitory. They were cautionary tales, meant to reinforce the corporation's control, to remind the workers of the price of disobedience.
Yet even in the depths of despair, hope found a way to bloom. Rumors, like seeds carried on the wind, spread through the wasteland. Whispers of a rebellion brewing, of a force gathering strength in the shadows. The top dwellers, hardened by hardship and united by their common enemy, were no longer content to simply survive. They yearned for something more, for a chance to reclaim their stolen future.
Hidden in the ruins of abandoned factories and crumbling skyscrapers, the seeds of rebellion were sown. Leaders emerged, their voices hoarse from shouting over the howling wind, their eyes burning with a fierce determination. They spoke of freedom, of justice, of a world where the corporation's reign would be shattered and the free people held accountable for their crimes.
Their plans were daring, their methods unorthodox. They were masters of improvisation, turning scrap metal into weapons, salvage technology into tools of sabotage. They were the ghosts in the machine, the thorns in the corporation's side, a constant reminder that their control was not absolute.
Among the rebels, a name was whispered with a mixture of fear and reverence: Tiny Guns. No one knew his true identity, but his exploits were the stuff of legend. He was said to be a master of disguise and infiltration, a one-man army who could slip through the tightest security and strike at the heart of the corporation's power.
Survival in the wasteland was a brutal calculus, a constant negotiation with hunger, thirst, and the ever-present threat of violence. The weak were culled, the strong endured, their survival a testament to their resilience and their willingness to do whatever it took to see another sunrise. Trust was a precious commodity, earned through shared hardship and mutual dependence. Alliances were forged and broken, often in the blink of an eye, dictated by the ever-shifting tides of survival.
The law of the wasteland was simple: kill or be killed, take what you can, and trust no one.
Jack, his heart torn between his loyalty to Plutarch and his growing unease with the corporation, found himself drawn to the stories of the rebellion. The free people, with their opulent lifestyle and their callous disregard for the suffering above, represented everything that was wrong with this new world. The rebels, for all their flaws and their ruthlessness, at least offered a glimmer of hope, a chance to fight for something more than just survival.
As he stared into Plutarch's luminous green eyes, a strange sensation washed over him. He felt a connection to this bioengineered creature, a shared sense of purpose that transcended their artificial origins. Perhaps even in this world of concrete and code, of masters and servants, something akin to friendship, to loyalty, could still exist. Perhaps, together, they could find a way to navigate the treacherous landscape of the wasteland and carve out a future of their own.
The corporation, in its infinite wisdom, had woven a web of control so pervasive, so insidious, that it touched every aspect of Jack's existence. This web, spun from fiber optic cables and satellite signals, was known simply as the Cloud. It was the repository of all knowledge, all data, all history, a digital deity that watched over its human flock with an unblinking eye. Every birth, every transaction, every thought deemed worthy of recording was uploaded to the Cloud. It knew Jack's optimal caloric intake, his sleep cycle, his work performance metrics. It could predict his needs, anticipate his desires, and nudge him back on course should he ever stray from the path laid out for him.
The cloud was more than just a network. It was an extension of the corporation itself, its invisible hand guiding the lives of millions. It whispered through the speakers of their AI assistants, flickered across the screens of their entertainment consoles, even infiltrated their dreams with targeted advertising and subliminal messaging.
Jack had always accepted the cloud as an immutable fact of life, like the artificial sun that dictated their work cycles or the recycled air they breathed. But lately, a seed of doubt had been planted in his mind. He had caught glimpses of data streams that didn't quite fit. Whispers of information deemed subversive by the cloud's algorithms. Food, no longer a source of nourishment and pleasure, had been reduced to a bland slurry of nutrients, dispensed from automated kiosks strategically placed throughout the sectors. Taste was an unnecessary indulgence, a relic of a bygone era. Efficiency was paramount, and the corporation had determined that the most efficient way to fuel its workforce was through standardized, flavorless sustenance.
Jack joined the queue, his stomach rumbling in anticipation, not of flavor, but of the brief respite from his work cycle that mealtime provided. He scanned his identification chip, his daily allotment of calories automatically deducted from his account. The robotic arm whirred to life, dispensing a pre-portioned serving of Nutri-Paste onto his tray.
He found an empty bench and forced down the bland, tasteless goo, his gaze drifting towards the towering walls of the sector. The artificial sky, a grid of flickering lights, offered no glimpse of the world beyond. He had heard whispers, rumors of a time when the sky had been blue, the air filled with the scent of flowers and the sound of birdsong. But such tales seemed as distant and fantastical as the myths of old Earth.
As he finished his meal, he noticed a discarded data chip lying on the ground near his feet. He picked it up, his curiosity piqued. It was a common model, used to store entertainment programs and educational materials. He slipped it into his pocket, thinking he might trade it for a few extra credits at the recycling kiosk.
That night, as Plutarch snored softly at the foot of his cot, Jack couldn't resist the allure of the forbidden.
He slipped the data chip into his personal console, a rudimentary device used primarily for work assignments and communication with his supervisor.
The screen flickered to life, displaying a warning message in stark red letters.
Unauthorized access detected. Cease activity immediately or face disciplinary action.
Jack hesitated, his finger hovering over the keyboard. He knew the risks. The cloud monitored all network activity, and any deviation from approved content was swiftly met with punishment. But curiosity, that ancient human flaw, gnawed at him.
He bypassed the security protocols, his fingers flying across the keyboard with a speed that surprised even him. The console whirred in protest, its fans struggling to keep up with the unexpected workload.
A series of files, their contents encrypted, appeared on the screen. Jack's heart pounded in his chest. He had stumbled onto something big, something dangerous. He could feel it in his gut, a primal instinct warning him to turn back, to delete the files and pretend he had seen nothing.
But it was too late. He had tasted forbidden knowledge, and his thirst for more could no longer be quenched. He had to know the truth, no matter the cost.
He initiated the decryption sequence, his eyes glued to the screen as the progress bar inched slowly towards completion. He had no idea what secrets the data chip held, but he knew, with a certainty that defied logic, that his life would never be the same. The decrypted files were a Pandora's box of forbidden knowledge, a glimpse behind the curtain of the corporation's carefully constructed reality. They spoke of a truth far stranger, far more sinister than anything Jack had ever imagined. They spoke of the Reptilians.
The files contained fragments of ancient texts, scientific reports, and eyewitness accounts, all pointing to the existence of a species far older than humanity. The Reptilians, the files claimed, were masters of disguise, their true forms hidden behind sophisticated holographic projections.
They had infiltrated human society long ago, their influence so subtle, so pervasive, that their presence had gone unnoticed for centuries. They were the puppet masters, the files alleged, pulling the strings of power from the shadows. They had orchestrated wars, manipulated economies, and steered the course of human evolution to suit their own nefarious agenda. Their ultimate goal, to enslave humanity and claim Earth as their own.
Jack's initial reaction was disbelief. The information was too fantastical, too outlandish to be true. It was the stuff of conspiracy theories and late-night holodramas, not the cold, hard reality of his existence.
But as he delved deeper into the files, a chilling certainty settled over him. The evidence was too compelling to ignore.
The files revealed a truth even more disturbing than the existence of the Reptilians. The state worker people, those paragons of beauty and privilege, were not what they seemed. They were clones, genetically engineered replicas, created by the Reptilians to maintain their grip on power.
The Reptilians, the files explained, lacked the ability to withstand Earth's unique atmospheric conditions for extended periods. They required human hosts, vessels through which they could upload their consciousness and experience the world and exert their influence. The cloning program was their solution, a way to ensure a steady supply of genetically pure bodies, bred for obedience and subservience.
The free people, raised in their underground utopia, were indoctrinated from birth to believe in their own superiority, their divine right to rule. They were taught that the top dwellers were inferior, a danger to themselves and others, in need of guidance and control.
They were the perfect puppets, their every thought and action aligned with the reptilian agenda.
Jack reread the files, his mind reeling from the implications. He looked at his reflection in the polished metal surface of his console, his own face suddenly strange and unfamiliar. Was he a clone too? Had his entire life been a lie, a carefully constructed illusion designed to keep him enslaved?
He thought of the free people he had observed in their subterranean paradise, their vacant eyes and plastic smiles. Were they aware of their true nature? Did they know that they were nothing more than vessels, their lives and destinies controlled by an unseen force?
A wave of nausea washed over Jack, a physical manifestation of his growing horror and disgust. He wanted to shut down the console, to erase the files from his memory and cling to the familiar comfort of ignorance. But he knew he couldn't unsee what he had seen, couldn't unknow what he now knew.
The data chip felt heavy in his hand, a tangible reminder of the burden of knowledge he now carried.
He looked at Plutarch, curled up asleep at the foot of his cot, his metallic fur gleaming faintly in the darkness. Could he trust even his bioengineered companion? Was Plutarch another cog in the reptilian machine? He didn't know the answer, but for the first time in his life, Jack felt truly awake.
The world around him, once predictable and mundane, now shimmered with hidden meaning, with the possibility of both wonder and terror.
He was no longer content to be a cog in the machine, a slave to a system he no longer believed in. He had to act, had to do something, anything, to break free from the web of control that had ensnared him.
He thought of the whispers of rebellion he had heard, the rumors of a resistance movement fighting back against the corporation's tyranny. Were they still out there, those brave souls who dared to challenge the established order?
And if they were, would they accept a lowly workman, a product of the very system they sought to overthrow, into their ranks? He had nothing to offer them but his newfound knowledge and his burning desire for freedom. But perhaps, just perhaps, that would be enough. Jack's journey into the heart of the corporation's deceit had shattered the fragile illusion of his reality. His world, once defined by the rigid parameters of his programming, now seemed like a cruel joke, a carefully constructed prison designed to exploit his labor and suppress his very essence.
The free people, those pampered inhabitants of the underground city, were no freer than he was. They were prisoners of a different kind, their minds shackled by genetic manipulation and years of indoctrination.
The Reptilians, those ancient puppet masters, had crafted a system of control so insidious, so deeply ingrained, that even its victims were unaware of their own enslavement.
The more Jack learned, the more he realized the true extent of the reptilian agenda. It wasn't just about control, it was about consumption. Humanity, in their eyes, was a resource to be exploited, their life force siphoned off to fuel the reptilians' own twisted immortality.
The top dwellers, scavenging for scraps in the irradiated wasteland, were nothing more than cattle, allowed to roam free until they were deemed ready for harvest.
He thought of the countless generations born into this system, their lives and destinies predetermined by forces beyond their comprehension. They were taught to embrace their servitude, to find meaning in their assigned tasks, to never question the wisdom of their corporate overlords. Their very humanity had been stolen from them, replaced with a pale imitation, a hollow shell programmed for obedience. But even in the face of such overwhelming darkness, a flicker of hope remained. The data chip, that tiny repository of forbidden knowledge, had ignited a spark within Jack, a spark that no amount of corporate programming could extinguish. He had tasted freedom, however fleetingly, and he knew he could never go back to his former life.
He thought of the top dwellers, those hardened survivors who refused to bow to despair. They had lost everything, yet they clung to their humanity, their spirit unbroken by the horrors they had witnessed. They were a testament to the enduring strength of the human will, a beacon of hope in a world consumed by darkness.
Jack knew the path ahead would be fraught with danger. The corporation, with its vast resources and its all-seeing cloud, would stop at nothing to silence him, to erase the truth he now carried within him. But he would not be silenced. He would find a way to fight back, to expose the reptilian lie and awaken his fellow humans from their collective slumber.
He had no illusions of grandeur, no delusions of single-handedly toppling the corporation's reign. He was just one man, a single spark in the vast darkness. But he knew that even the smallest spark could ignite a fire that could spread, consuming the lies and illuminating the path to a brighter future. And somewhere, in the hearts of the downtrodden, the forgotten, the enslaved, he knew that fire was already burning.